Hello everyone, welcome to video lecture number 14. This is the Enlightenment and the Great Awakening. We've got a few sections that we're going to cover today. First of all, we've got the Enlightenment, and then we're going to look at the Great Awakening. These are religious movements in America. Religious upheaval in the north, and then social and religious conflict in the south. So let's get started. As the societies of British North America were transformed from relatively simple frontier communities to complex but distinctive extensions of Europe, they began to participate in the religious and intellectual movements of the larger European world. Two powerful continental movements in particular transformed the cultural and intellectual life of the colonies. The Enlightenment emphasized the power of human reason and had its roots in the scientific revolution of the 17th century. If any single individual epitomized the American version of the Enlightenment, it was Benjamin Franklin. If any single place was its center, it was Benjamin Franklin's Philadelphia. The second movement was more spiritual. As some Americans were abandoning or at least revising an older religious worldview, many more were embracing a brand new one. Pietism, which came to America from Europe with German immigrants in the 1720s, led to religious revivals throughout the colonies. Little concerned with formal theology, it emphasized moral behavior and a mystical union with God. Charismatic preachers such as Theodore Jacob Frelinghuysen, William and Gilbert Tennant, and Jonathan Edwards all played key roles in these revivals. From 1739 to 41, the powerful British evangelist George Whitefield preached to huge audiences throughout the colonies, knitting these local revivals together into a single movement which became known as the Great Awakening. The Great Awakening was a social upheaval that created controversy. It divided churches, leading to the creation of completely new congregations. It also inspired its adherents to question the need for religious taxes, the idea of an established church, the authority of ministers, and the morality of economic competition. So this is our topic for today. We're going to focus on these two intellectual movements, the Enlightenment and the Great Awakening. So let's begin with our first section, which is the Enlightenment. Many early Americans believed in folk wisdom, while others relied on a religion that believed the earth was the center of the universe and that God intervened directly and continuously in all kinds of human affairs. In the century between Newton's Principia Mathematica, 1687, and the French Revolution in 1789, the philosophers of the European Enlightenment used empirical research and scientific reasoning to study all aspects of life, including social institutions and human behavior. Enlightenment thinkers advanced four fundamental principles: the order of the natural world, the power of human reason, the natural rights of individuals, including the right to self-government, and the progressive improvement of society. John Locke, a name you're familiar with, proposed that human lives were not fixed, but could be changed through education and purposeful action. In Locke's two treatises on government, he advanced this theory that political authority was not divinely ordained, but rather it sprang from social compacts that people made to preserve their natural rights to life, liberty, and property. European Enlightenment ideas began to affect colonists' beliefs about science, religion, and politics. Some influential colonists, including inventor and printer Benjamin Franklin, turned to deism, which is the belief that God had created the world to run in accordance with the laws of nature and also natural reason, without his complete intervention. The Enlightenment then added a secular dimension to colonial intellectual life. So let's move on to our next section, American Pietism and the Great Awakening. While educated Americans turned to deism, other colonists turned to Pietism, which came to America with German migrants in the 1720s and sparked a religious revival. Pietism emphasized pious behavior, religious emotion, and the striving for a mystical union with God. In Pennsylvania and New Jersey, the Dutch minister Theodore Jacob Frelinghuysen preached rousing, emotional sermons to German settlers. In New England, Jonathan Edwards did the same for congregational churches in the Connecticut River Valley. In the 1730s, the strict Calvinist New England minister Jonathan Edwards restored Christian zeal to congregational churches in the Connecticut River Valley also, and he helped to influence Enlightenment thought by agreeing with Locke that ideas are the product of experience. Beginning in 1739, the compelling George Whitefield, a follower of John Wesley's preaching style, transformed local revivals into this Great Awakening. Hundreds of colonists felt the new light of God's grace and were eager to spread Whitefield's message throughout their communities. And this term, new light, is going to be very important. So let's move on to religious upheavals then in the North. Conservatives, or Old Light ministers, condemned the preaching of traveling New Light ministers for their emotionalism and for also allowing women to speak in public. In Connecticut, traveling preachers were prohibited from speaking to established congregations without the consent of that congregation's minister. Some farmers, women, and artisans condemned the Old Lights as unconverted sinners. The awakening undermined support of traditional churches, and it challenged their tax-supported status. Separatist churches were then founded that favored the separation of church and state. The awakening gave a new sense of religious authority then to many colonists through its challenge to the authority of these ministers, and it reaffirmed communal values as it questioned the pursuit of wealth. One tangible and lasting product of the awakening was the founding of colleges, such as Princeton, Rutgers, Columbia, and Brown. And these were founded to train ministers for various denominations. The true intellectual legacy of the awakening, though, was not education for the few, but a new sense of religious and ultimately political authority among the many. So our last section is social and religious conflict in the South. The Great Awakening in the South challenged both the dominance of the Church of England and the class of the planter elite. The social authority of the Virginia gentry was threatened as freeholders left the established church for these new light revivals. Religious pluralism threatened the government's ability to impose taxes then to support their established church, which in the South was the Church of England. Anglicans closed down Presbyterian meeting houses to prevent the spread of the New Light doctrine. During the 1760s, many poorer Virginians were drawn to enthusiastic Baptist revivals, where even slaves were welcome. The gentry reacted violently to the Baptist threat to their social authority and their way of life, though Baptist congregations continued to multiply. The revival in the Chesapeake did not bring radical changes to the social order, though. Baptist men kept church authority in the hands of freeborn male members. But as Baptist ministers spread Christianity among slaves, the revival helped to shrink the cultural gulf between blacks and whites, undermining one justification for slavery and giving blacks a brand new religious identity. Okay, so this does conclude our video lecture for today. As always, please review and address the review questions at the bottom in your notes.